And getting back to the question of adaptation, we have to recognize that adaptation is directly linked to mitigation, to cutting greenhouse gas levels. And the rich countries need to recognize the connection and recognize that it's not morally defensible to continue emitting at current levels and then to write off regions like the Arctic and the small island states. Oxfam estimates that the cost of adaptation is about $50 billion per year, and more if emissions are not cut rapidly. I think the international arms market hit $1 trillion last year, so I think 50 billion is pocket change for those guys. And this echoes the Stern report, the economic analysis by Nicholas Stern that came out in the UK last year. And the main point that Stern made was, yes, it will cost something, but it's going to cost a lot more the longer we wait to get on with the job. And I think for faith groups, the role of spirituality, I think that you are sitting on top of a really important global network and alliance and potential alliances. You have an opportunity here, I think, to reach out to other similar groups around the world. You have a network that others can only dream about, I think. And there are examples where other religious denominations have taken this issue on. Earlier this summer, there was well, I have to say it was a cruise to the Arctic, so I'm not sure how they offset their greenhouse gas emissions, but anyway, that's another story. It's called Religion, Science, and Environment. You can Google it. It's a seminar, a think tank set up by the Greek Orthodox Patriarch. And so they took a group of scientists and leaders to the Arctic. One of the people who was on that trip this summer was Sheila Kluche. And there are also lots of environmentally minded Christian organizations in the United States. There was a film released a couple of years ago called The Great Warming, produced by a Canadian, ironically, but focused on the U.S. market. And the goal of this film, which was, I don't know if anybody saw it, but it was narrated by Alanis Morissette and some other guy. My daughters tell me I should know who he is, but I forget. Russell Crowe, I think. But the point of this movie came out before Gore, and if you Google Great Warming and you go to their website, you'll see all sorts of links to other U.S.-based, what I would see as fundamentalist, but who knows, Christian organizations, and they talk about the importance of creation care. And they have interesting members, including the Republicans for Environmental Protection. I don't know if those guys get invited to breakfast at the White House, but the point is that there are lots of other organizations that are trying to do similar things. My last point is I want to emphasize what Dr. Stone said, that we're talking about effects that are locked in now. We are in the middle of climate change. It's not something that's going to happen in 10 years. The targets we're talking about in 2015 or 2020 are really important, but we need to recognize that the question of adaptation is happening now. So this might be something that you, as a national organization, an international organization, might want to look at a little more closely. Certainly, for those of you who live in Canada, what work is happening on adaptation in the Canadian Arctic? How can it be promoted? How can it be supported? What would the role of your community be in the Arctic in that respect? I think that individual actions are really important, obviously, but I've said, I think, too many times that concerted action needs to be taken at the international level, and I think that's where you come in. It's our fate to live in this pivotal era, and as our actions have already altered the very atmosphere of our planet, so our decisions in the next few years will seal the future. No other generation has had this kind of responsibility. It is daunting, but in the words of Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, ultimately man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather must recognize that it is he who is asked. In a word, each man is questioned by life, and he can only answer to life by answering for his own life. To life, he can only respond by being responsible. I think that Margaret Mead put it very well as well, but perhaps differently in a different context. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful people could change the world. It is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.